You're listening to CherryPickin Entertainment.
Throw me the ball and watch what I do with it.
You are now tuned into the CherryPickin podcast with your host, Andre Cherry.
Hey everybody, thank you for downloading another episode of the CherryPickin podcast. I'm excited because this is season 5 of the CherryPickin podcast. I'm so grateful that you're on this journey with me. Today I got my good friend. He is in the studio, in the CherryPickin studios. You know him, you love him. My good friend Casey Callanan, aka Casey Kane. What's up, Casey?
Hey man, good to be back in Philly. How's everything with you?
Things are crazy, man. I feel like it's been a minute since I've done a football podcast, so I'm excited to kind of knock the rust off a little bit, talk a little bit of college football, kind of get us excited for the upcoming season. 2021 was crazy. It's cool that we have like a full season again compared to the 2020 season. Yeah. And I'm excited to get into this season, but I would love to get your reaction to last year's season, 2021. Do you have any like quick thoughts or reactions to how things played out?
It was an exciting national championship. I don't think that it. What did you think? Because I wasn't sure that Georgia was going to pull it out there. I thought at the beginning of the game and in that first half that it was going to be another Alabama national championship, but it ended up being an amazing game.
It was an amazing game. It was Georgia won that game 33-18, and it was an exciting first half. I was actually nervous because like everyone was riding Georgia that season, and rightfully so. Like they went on a crazy win streak. I think they won like 12 games in a row before they lost to Alabama in the SEC championship. So I'm like, there's no way Georgia is going to go to the playoffs and beat Alabama in the playoffs. And I think we recorded a podcast even, and you may have been hot on Georgia. I can't recall, but if you were to tell me that Georgia would lose to Bama, they got embarrassed like 41-24 in that SEC championship game, and then a few weeks later they're going to beat them by a pretty nice margin, I wouldn't believe it, dude.
Yeah, that is that is crazy. And I think one of the things I'm really interested in seeing coming up with this new season is how the NIL, is that how you say it? I always see it written. Is that just how you say it?
NIL.
I really am very interested to see how NIL and how that changes everything. Like if it's too early for it to have a big impact on the 2022 fall season, or are we going to start to see some of that stuff playing out all of a sudden? You know, just because now you can actually like get walk-ons paid pretty much, right? Because like say like a car dealer in town is like, I'll pay for all. I think I've heard of it happening at BYU where they're like, we'll pay for all your walk-ons to get scholarships because, you know, we want to support the team. And it's considered like an NIL endorsement, I think. So like, I'm just curious to see if the NIL is going to have a big impact on football this year, and if there's going to be a team because they have some sort of advantage like that that's going to pop up out of nowhere. And I'm also interested as a Big 12 guy to see these waning years of Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, and then to see how the new dogs in town, Cincinnati, Houston, and I believe Central Florida, are going to be when the Big 12 picks them up.
Yeah, man, that's a lot that you threw at me, and we'll start with the NIL for sure. I think we're already, like the name, image, likeness, we're already seeing the impact, and if you follow like social media at all, you see people on both sides of it, people that are like big names in college football, like reporters and pundits and whatnot, but like they have very strong views. I wouldn't say like for or against, but I feel as if many folks believe that it's like not really regulated well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure like what the NCAA is doing or what individual teams are doing, but I feel like it would be in their benefit to kind of not put like guardrails and not like to manage it directly, but like to help these players understand the landscape of like what this means when, you know, you have like a Joe's Pizza or, you know, an auto dealership or whatever the case may be trying to give you money. These kids are young kids, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like they're teenagers. to your point, like, will we see it this year? I think we'll definitely see an impact of NIL this year.
Yeah.
I'm curious if we'll see it like during the season. You know what I mean? I don't know, but I definitely think it's changing the landscape, and I think it's good. Like, these kids need to get paid for their services. Like, they need to get paid. I'm not the guy to tell you how it should be done. That I don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, social media seems to be playing a big factor. Like, if you have a big following, I think social media followers, to the brand's perspective, matters much more than the quality of play on the field. So that's why you're seeing like a lot of obscure type athletes who aren't necessarily even starting on the field, like getting big paydays because they have big social media followings. So I think it would behoove these athletes to build up their social media following naturally. Now, does that mean they're going to take away from their dedication to the sport?
Yeah, that's something to be seen. I mean, what you're saying is almost like they could be a TikTok star or something. Like, they could just build their brand on their own.
Oh, so and so's the fourth tight end at whatever school, but man, does he have a great TikTok following, and the brands are after him like crazy. Yeah, I think that's smart to use the platform of college football to better yourself financially and also have a potential career waiting for you after you're done playing football or whatever sport, and then kind of, leverage that. So it's a good thing, I think, because it's giving people a platform to and a foundation for perhaps their career, because as we always hear in that famous NCAA commercial, whatever it is, like 98% of these athletes are going to go pro in something other than sports, right? So this can give them a intro to marketing and even influencer marketing and how that works, and learning the nuts and bolts of that business.
Yeah, and what I found interesting related to the NIL topic, this was on ESPN by Adam Rittenberg, but the WWE is like a big partner or a big company in trying to do this NIL and like use it to their advantage.
Yeah, that's smart.
Did you hear about this? Like, they announced a second class of college athletes to receive name, image, likeness agreements.
Yeah.
So WWE second class of college athletes receiving name, image, and likeness agreements includes the first participants in men's basketball, volleyball, gymnastics, and cheer and dance, as well as 4 from Power 5 football programs. A 15-member group participating in WWE's Next in Line program will train at the promotion's Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, and receive resources in areas such as brand building and media communications.
Triple H
was there at the forefront of this, and I think that's kind of cool. Like, they're trying to find the next, who's next up, pretty much.
Yeah, they're going to be using, the WWE is going to be using college sports as a minor league farm system to build their next, pipeline of superstars that are going to come up and, take over for maybe some of these aging superstars or whatever that may be. So it's really smart for them to do that. And if you look at some of the college football stars of yesteryear who have gone on to be professional wrestlers, I mean, it starts with Dwayne Johnson. Ron Simmons is a name I heard come up. Bill Goldberg. Just
Roman Reigns.
D'Lo Brown played football at Maine. There's a bunch. Those are the guys that are kind of that are, coming to mind right now. Some basketball players too. Kevin Nash played big time college basketball.
Kane did too. Right?
Did he really?
Yeah, Kane and Undertaker.
What's
did.
the Kane's real name? The Kane. What's his real name?
I'm blanking on it. Yeah, I'm gonna look that up.
No, there's a lot.
He's the governor now, right?
I don't know. There's a lot of college stars that go on to professional wrestling.
Glenn Thomas Jacobs.
I didn't know that. Okay. So yeah, there's a lot of.
He's a mayor.
It makes sense why the WWE would go towards college sports to build up their next pipeline. Yes, totally makes sense. Now, I would make the argument, however, just to finish the WWE thought, that the best technical wrestlers that come into professional wrestling actually have a Greco-Roman style amateur wrestling background, like Kurt Angle. Actually, Bret Hart had some amateur experience, and he was probably the best technician.
Would you say Brock Lesnar too? Would you say?
Oh yeah. Brock Lesnar very much so had a wrestling background, mixed martial arts obviously too. But yeah, I think that's smart, that So brands are like, they're ready to pounce. They're ready to throw a lot of money at these athletes. I'm just curious, is it too early that we'll see a big impact on the field in 2022 with these NIL endorsements really flooding college sports right now?
What I'm thinking about when it comes to NIL, will we see players like decide to like just stop playing because of NIL money that they were getting, or like they'll want to go somewhere else? Like the transfer portal is already opened up kind of a new kind of way of college football and like athletics in general. But like with the NIL element to it, you know, I don't want to say like who's your masters. I don't want to talk like that, but you know what I mean? Like when you're a college athlete, like you're playing for the team, for the school, university, but like when NIL is factored into it.
Yeah, it could disrupt
You know what I mean?
a lot of the team dynamic. Like so and so, you just never know the effects that it's going to have, like the unintended consequences, right? If someone's making more money than you NIL wise and you are performing better on the field, that's going to maybe create a little animosity because it's a completely different business model than how we see the players getting paid in the traditional professional ranks, NFL, CFL, etc. Yeah, so like it's not like you're getting paid necessarily based on your on-field performance. I really think it's more tied to social media following. Now, the two go hand in hand, right? If you're an amazing player, then you're probably going to have a big social media following. But that always isn't necessarily the truth, the facts, right?
Yeah.
And it does take time and energy to put things into your social media platforms. Of course, you could hire people to do that work. That's always a possibility. You know, if you're really like a star athlete and you have that kind of budget, you know, that's a possibility. But still, it's just it could create some unintended consequences when people who aren't performing necessarily as better as someone else are getting paid more than the person that's actually performing better on the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, oh, this bench warmer who's got a personality is getting more money than the starting running back. Like, how does that even make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, you know, I don't like write off, oh, this guy's, you know, not great on the field, but man, can he create a social media following. You know, if you can do that and you're not that great of an athlete or you're just not a great superstar, you're not really even getting that much television time and exposure, it just means you're really good at marketing yourself, and that's a really valuable skill.
That's a skill.
Yeah. I mean, look at the Jake Pauls, the Logan Pauls. These guys, love them, hate them, whatever you feel about them, they move the needle and they really get people interested in what they're doing. They're masterful at marketing in this digital era.
They really are. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. So I'm excited to see that kind of change the landscape, hopefully in a positive way, but we shall see. Just finishing up on the 2021 season real quick, just wanted to throw out some things as it pertains to the Big Ten specifically, because we are in Big Ten country. We're Penn State country right now. I was impressed with Michigan State's start last year. They went 8-0 before they lost to Purdue on November 6th. So they lost their first game in November, which is crazy. I think Mel Tucker did a great job kind of re-energizing that program, and he turned it around. Interested to see if they can do that again. I was really impressed by Jim Harbaugh, that he was actually finally able to put together a winner in the Big Ten, and most importantly, he beat Ohio State. He is now entering into his 8th year at his alma mater at Michigan. Casey, like, what is your outlook for both of those programs? But like, do you think Michigan can do it again?
Definitely. I think Michigan is on the right track for sure. Beating Ohio State was the highlight of the Big Ten season last year. That was so exciting that they could finally do it. I think they're headed completely in the right direction.
Yeah, I would say like you can only go up from there, I feel like. And if you can beat an Ohio State who's kind of had a reign of terror over the Big Ten for quite a long time, especially over Michigan, that's like a huge thing to build on. Yeah. And so I'm rooting for him to do it. I think he's a fun coach. Like, he's an interesting character. I'm curious to see if Michigan State can do it again and be successful. I think they kind of had a letdown to the end of their season. I mean, they started off so hot. I like Mel Tucker. I like what he's done there, this defensive guy. But I'm excited to see kind of how the Big Ten shapes up. I mean, there's so many storylines in college football right now coming into the season. Is there anything that you're looking forward to, Casey, or anything even about West Virginia? I mean, I know that's your beloved Mountaineers. Like,
yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
I was looking at their schedule the other day. I don't have it in front of me, but I know they're playing Pitt on their first game of the season. That's going to be exciting. We'll see right away whether or not, West Virginia is going to contend in the Big 12 this season with a non-conference matchup against Pitt. I think that game is going to be in Pittsburgh, but also they play Virginia Tech, which, Virginia Tech I don't think had a great year last year. So we'll see if they can. Is that game at Pittsburgh?
Yep, at Pitt on September 1st.
Okay, and then they are at Virginia Tech as well. So they're two big non-conference games.
Texas?
Yeah, but they play two huge non-conference games at the beginning of the season on September 1st and September 22nd. They play at Pitt on September 1st and then at Virginia Tech on the 22nd. Both games will be in prime time on ESPN. And, I just think they're going to struggle in at least one or two of those games. I'm really hopeful. I'll have my West Virginia flag out flying high those days, but, I'm not sure. I mean, they got beat pretty easily by Minnesota. I mean, completely outclassed in their last appearance on the field in that ball game. It was good to see them in a bowl because for a long time last year, we didn't think they were going to even be in a bowl. But, they got to Minnesota, and, man, those offensive linemen from Minnesota just run all, they really had their day with us. And a lot of them got drafted very high and not surprisingly, those Minnesota O linemen. But, yeah, just to wrap it up, non-conference with West Virginia, they also play Towson, the Towson Tigers, which is actually, you're very close here in Philadelphia to Temple's campus. My wife and my young son, and we all live very close to Towson's campus. We go walking there all the time, right next to Johnny United's stadium. But that game will be in Morgantown. Obviously, they're not going to – West Virginia's not coming to Towson. But, so they should at least win that one against the Tigers, Towson Tigers football, who actually, have had some decent success in for the division formerly known as 1AA. They actually went to the national championship game in 2013 or 14. I remember when I first moved to Baltimore, that time period they were in it, and there was a lot of Towson alumni who had some big rooting interest in it. They ended up losing that game, but they had a running back named Terrence West, I believe, who ended up playing a couple years in the NFL and did play for his hometown. I don't know if he's from Baltimore, but he did play for the Ravens for a little while. So, yeah, they'll beat up on Towson, but then they will probably struggle in those other non-conference matchups against Pitt and Virginia Tech on the road. And then, you got the Big 12 schedule, and that's always brutal.
Yeah, your schedule, I'm just looking at it. I said Texas because that's kind of crazy to go to Virginia Tech, then you're going on the road to Texas. But do they always put the block of Texas teams kind of together here?
No, it's just random, really.
And you got one at home versus Baylor.
It hasn't. Back. Yeah, there hasn't been any real flow to how they schedule the Big 12 opponents. It's not even because we don't have a natural rival, so it's just whoever, whenever in the Big 12.
Well, we shall see how West Virginia does this year. I'm pretty big on NC State this season. I know West Virginia, your school. NC State's my school, but I'm excited for NC State. I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say they're going to win the ACC this year. This is preseason talk, mind you, but I think they're going to win the ACC. They're going to win the Atlantic Division. They're going to win the ACC, and I think, Casey, they're going to make it into the playoffs. I don't know if you've got your teams that you think right now will be in the playoffs, but NC State's a team on my radar. I'm going to go out on a huge limb.
Okay, all right. That seems like a hometown prediction right there, but we'll see if the guys in Raleigh can do it.
A lot of people are big on NC State right now. They had a good season last year. They went 9-3 in 2021. Head coach Dave Doran, he's a guy we know. He was the NIU's coach for a while.
That's right.
They did well last season, but I'm really big on this quarterback they got. His name is Devin Leary. He's poised for a Heisman-like campaign. Casey, he's a guy from New Jersey, Gloucester Township, New Jersey.
That's near Philly, right?
That's right by the airport. Okay. Yeah, on the other side of the Delaware River.
Oh, cool.
But so Devin Leary, he attended Timber Creek Regional High School. I don't know if you know that high school at all. During his high school career, he set the state record for career passing yards, close to 10,000 passing yards.
Dang.
117 touchdowns. During his junior year, he set the state record for passing yards and touchdowns in a season with 48.
Whoa.
So NC State needs this dude, and they went 9-3 last season. I'm excited for that they had a good campaign, but I'm ready for NC State to turn a page in its history, and I think they're going to be one of the teams in the playoffs. Alabama, I think, is going to reload. You got quarterback Bryce Young. entering into his junior year at Bama. I'm expecting him to put up another Heisman-like campaign.
How do you feel about Texas A&M?
They are always somebody you got to pay attention to now. Like lately, they're a team that they're always like, it's Alabama or what's Texas A&M going to do? And I feel like there's been a little bit of like a rivalry right now between Nick Saban and Jimbo. I haven't been following it closely, but what are your thoughts?
They're definitely like making headlines together right now. You know, there was a lot of stories going back and forth, but I think Texas A&M, they're like the new Texas, like how Texas was in the Vince Young years. Like Texas A&M, every single year now, you have to pay attention to with all the high school talent coming out of the Lone Star State. It was like, okay, Texas for a while was getting all that, you know, the Longhorns, but now for whatever reason, I feel like Texas A&M has completely leapfrogged them consistently.
Yeah, Texas A&M has leapfrogged them, and I think they've got, you know, that momentum in the state of Texas, I would say. But I find it weird and odd that like Texas A&M always kind of wants to like block Texas, and I don't mean like literally, but like they just there's bad blood there, and you can tell in like all these decisions about Texas coming to the SEC. Texas A&M was like, you know, we're not going to vote on it, or we're not going to endorse this or support it. Like they just don't want to have anything to do with Texas. And I'm actually interested when Texas goes to the SEC to see like how that rivalry plays out even more, you know? So Alabama, I think, is a team that is going to be there at the end. I think Ohio State will have a bounce back season. I'm actually looking forward to seeing what quarterback C.J. Stroud is able to accomplish in his sophomore season at Ohio State. Last season, he finished 4th in the Heisman voting. They've got a new defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles. He was born in Philly. He's bringing a new defensive scheme with him from Oklahoma State. That defense was atrocious last season, if you all remember watching them kind of flounder opportunities. C.J. Stroud kind of, from the first game of the season, he rebounded and like grew up quickly. And he's somebody that I'm expecting to help this team. I am excited to see what that defense can do, because if the defense can put it together in this new scheme, which will feature a lot of moving parts, hopefully equating to more blitzing and more sacks, you know, more wins and being more dominant in the Big Ten, I think Ohio State will be there at the end. NC State, as I said, I think is a team that'll be there. And just a wild card that I'm going to throw out there, a dark horse, I think Iowa is going to be in the playoffs this season.
Wow, okay.
So I'm going out on a limb here. This is the preseason, my first podcast episode of the season. So, you know, don't kill me if this doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, take a pick. It's either going to be, I always feel like you have Ohio State, Michigan, and then there's always one other Big Ten team that steps it up, like challenging for the title. And it's either going to be Wisconsin, it's either going to be Iowa, Michigan State, and...
What about Northwestern?
Never.
Chicago's Big Ten team?
Not after last season. But you never know. I mean, I don't know if they... I don't know. I just feel like they don't have the resources to compete with those big state schools like Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan State. But I was going to say maybe Minnesota. Even though they lost a lot of talent.
Rode the boat,
man.
They
lost a lot of talent. But
real quick, I wanted to talk real quickly about Temple football. That's a team that I'm going to be looking forward to watching some games because they do have a new head coach, a real-ass head coach, I feel like, Stan Drayton. This is his first stop as a head coach at Temple, but this guy's had a long career. He's a running backs coach, formerly running backs coach. He was with the Bears even. They're doing there's a lot of
Where was he
movement.
last year?
Texas.
Oh,
Texas guy.
Okay.
He's doing a lot of movement. Like his team is coming together. A lot of transfers coming in. Coaching staff is making changes there as well and bringing people in. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for some games coming up here. Casey, on September 3rd, we got to watch that Illinois State game at Wisconsin. We gotta watch that, man.
Okay.
My Redbirds playing Wisconsin at Camp Randall, which should be fun.
Nice.
September 4th, you got Florida State versus LSU. I'm excited to see what Florida State can do. A new look LSU, with your guy Brian Kelly from Notre Dame, formerly. September 10th, we got Texas versus Alabama. I'm not really expecting much from Texas this season, but it's always interesting to get. You're talking about some like blue blood.
How do you think the Irish will be without Kelly?
I'm excited for that new regime at Notre Dame. Like I want to see what they can do. I mean, I feel like Brian Kelly did as much as he was going to do at Notre Dame. He was there for like over a decade, I want to say.
Well, he's there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's time for somebody new to come in and inject some new blood and new life into the program. So I'm excited for the new head coach. But I mean, I'm excited overall for college football. I think it'll be fun season. Casey, I appreciate you hopping on the mic here.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a one bold prediction, or you already did it?
So maybe not a bold prediction, but like a storyline that I'm looking forward to is seeing how USC does under Lincoln Riley. So he's a new head coach from Oklahoma. He kind of just like bounced. The Trojans went 4-8 last season. They saw Clay Helton get fired. I want to say like after the second game of the season.
Yeah, he was gone early.
Yeah, he got ousted pretty early. The first like major disruption to a head coach last season. Some are optimistic that Riley can walk in and turn the program around right away. There were a lot of transfers that came with him, a lot of players that flocked to Lincoln Riley. So I'm hoping it translates into something meaningful. Yeah. Because I feel like USC is a program that it's got to be hot. Like they got to be a good program.
I thought it was always interesting that you like college football better than pro football, but I recently learned when I was reading this book that back in the day, like the most popular sports in America, and we're talking, I don't know, maybe like the 40s, was baseball, boxing, horse racing, and then college football. I think that's what it was. And then it was like after that it was like golf, tennis, pro football, hockey, like way down. So there was a time when college football was more popular than NFL, and I think you could make the argument these days pretty much neck and neck.
Oh, really? Damn.
Yeah, if you go around the country, some parts of the country, like where my in-laws live in Pensacola, Florida, they don't care at all about pro football.
They're Florida State?
It's like a mix of a bunch
Pensacola?
of different teams. Yeah, Alabama, Auburn. And
Oh,
stuff.
right.
Yeah, and so yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the part of the country. I don't know if it's more than 50%, but it's pretty much like college football, NFL. I mean, any part of the USA, they pretty much are like neck and neck. Take a pick.
Like maybe one of these years or one of these days we can go on a road trip, and I want to go to those parts of the country where college football is everything. So like I'm talking like Lincoln, Nebraska, or like an Alabama game or something.
Yeah,
You know
I like Pensacola as an example because because there's no team in Pensacola. So but by far they like college football more than NFL.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. I'm excited. This is getting me pumped for the season. It's almost here.
I'm pumped too.
I'm glad that you were able to come on the mic because I feel like Casey, you actually start my seasons off.
Always.
I think
It's a tradition.
every season. This is the 5th season of the CherryPickin podcast. I'm excited for you all to listen to this episode and listen to the season. I mean, I'm excited to get back into my regular shape again of doing these. So appreciate you all listening to the episode. Casey, I appreciate you coming all the way up from B-More.
Definitely, man.
Tell the good people where they can find you, man.
Find me at clearcontender.com. Clearcontender.com.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Hope you guys have a good one. Can't wait to talk to you soon. Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Peace. Thank you again for tuning into my Cherry Pickin' podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please feel free to subscribe to my show and drop me a rating on Apple Podcasts. All of my digital content can be found at the website CherryPickinSports.com. And if you are looking to interact with me via social media, my Twitter handle is @Cherry_Pickin. That's PICKIN. On my Twitter, you'll also find a link to my blog where I post my weekly college football predictions and analysis. I can also be reached via email at cherrypickinsports@gmail.com. Please feel free to reach out to me regarding what you like about this podcast or about what content you'd like to hear more of on future episodes. I sincerely thank you for your support, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon. Take care.